Let me start with a question. If someone in your town asked ChatGPT to find a church nearby, would your church show up? That's the world that we're living in now. Artificial intelligence isn't science fiction anymore. It's already reshaping how people find answers, how they discover community, and yes, how they could potentially find your church. Now, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Appreciate seeing people from all over here. And welcome to Digital Outreach's webinar, The Invisible Church Website, How AI is Shifting and Changing the Game. This is part of our Church Ops University series, practical webinars that are designed to give you clarity and confidence as you navigate this rapidly evolving digital landscape. Our mission here on the DO side is simple: to help churches just like yours spend less time guessing about technology and how to use it, and more time doing what matters most: reaching the lost, discipling believers, shepherding your flock. Again, welcome. My name is Matt Engler. I'm one of the co-founders here at Digital Outreach. And since 2018, our team has been equipping churches like yours to connect with their communities through digital tools that work. And I'll be joined today in just a minute by my good friend and the other co-founder here at Digital Outreach, Luke Menser. Now, from the start, I want to acknowledge words like algorithms, large language models, even search engine optimization, which you might be familiar with. That doesn't exactly excite you. It's not moving the needle. But here's the reality: AI isn't going away. In fact, platforms like ChatGPT are already being called the most consequential products of our entire life. Let's put this into quick perspective. ChatGPT is the fastest growing product in human history. Within months of its launch, over 10% of the world's population was using it multiple times a day. And so now we think about Siri and Google AI overviews, Claude, Perplexity, you name it. They're changing the way people interact with and search for answers. Here's what this means. In a world where people are now turning from search to AI for answers, your church's online visibility, your discoverability, we think is no longer optional. It's become mission critical. And so churches that learn how to structure their digital presence, their website, for both people as well as for AI, are going to be the ones that continue to show up when someone in their community is spiritually searching. Look, ultimately, this is not about getting more traffic to your site, getting more clicks. It's about getting people connected with the hope of the gospel. Luke, let's bring you in. It's interesting. You and I did a webinar, what was this, back in January, right? And we were looking at the three most common problems with the church's digital presence. And at that time, what AI discoverability, gosh, that wasn't even on like the radar of topics we thought to cover. But that's how fast things have changed. And that's why we think this particular conversation today matters.
It really has been rapid, Matt. And I think pastors are trying to figure out, man, there's so many facets of AI. We're excited to talk about just one of those facets, how really AI can be used by the church to reach into the local community and use it for good. So eager to dive in and talk all about it.
Yeah, perfect. I'm eager to dive in as well. And so let's go ahead and just tee up what you can expect over the next 40 or so minutes here. We're going to start with the purpose of your website. Now, if you've worked with us for a little while, this will be familiar territory for you, but I think it's helpful to always ground ourselves in ultimately the true mission and ministry of a church's website. We'll then quickly get into today some of the issues that church websites are seeing with discoverability, with visibility, and then really start to dig deep into how AI is changing and unfortunately making some of those issues even worse. But there's good news. There is hope. There's some essential things we can do starting even tomorrow to position ourselves well for this growing trend of AI search and AI discoverability. And so we're going to walk you through some very practical things you can be doing that are easy to implement. Now, hang with us. We're going to cover a lot of ground, but stay till the end because we also have something we would love to show you, which is a solution that takes a lot of these essentials, packages them up, and provides something that you can implement for your church pretty easily. This is, as Luke mentioned, there's a lot to cover. It's a vast landscape. So we want to make sure that we're leaving time to answer all of your questions as well. So we've got time for that at the end, which leads me to two just quick housekeeping items. You see on the right-hand side, you've got the chat. We would love to interact with you all along the way. Please don't hesitate to let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling. There's also a button. You'll see the kind of the icon with the question mark where you can submit your questions. We will be reviewing them all throughout the webinar. We'll try to get to as many as we possibly can because we think this is a topic that's worth discussing and making sure we've got our hands wrapped around it. Now, before we get into the actual meat of the content here, we do have a poll. I see that some of you have already taken it, but just take another second. Have you ever used an AI tool, right? I just said it's the fastest growing product in human history, ChatGPT is, but maybe you haven't used it yet. Or if you have, what have you used it for? There's a wide variety of uses, and we would just love to kind of get a sense of what you've done so far with it. I'll share just a quick anecdote as you're filling out that poll. I'm going down in October to visit a buddy outside of Orlando, and I was just looking for a variety of flights, which the cheapest, which gets me there the quickest. With ChatGPT's agent mode, I actually watched this thing stand up a remote desktop. It literally created a window in ChatGPT. I saw like a laptop open, it pull up Google Flights, and I was fascinated for like 30 minutes as I watched it search all the flights with the information that I gave. And so it's just this fascinating new world with lots of different capabilities. So we're going to go ahead and close this poll here. We'll go over the answers in a little bit, but it looks like, okay, for writing help, for research tools, that sort of thing. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of a look as to how you use it today. All right. Let's get into it. So imagine for a moment, it's 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. You've got a spiritually exhausted person. They've pulled into your church parking lot. They don't know anyone. They've never been there before. They haven't met a soul, but they're searching. Maybe they know exactly what they're searching for. Maybe they can't quite give that a name yet, but they feel a tug and a pull. That exact scenario isn't necessarily happening just in parking lots, but online. In fact, 20 million times a year in the US, a non-regular churchgoer is actually going to visit a church website. And in that moment of searching, right, it's your website that is their first encounter with the church. It is your front door. It's a digital front door, but it's your front door. So here's the truth. Your website isn't built for your current congregation. It's the front door for people who have not walked in as of yet. Those first impressions, they happen on screens and on phones before they ever happen within either the pews or inside. Let's dig into this data a little bit more. 97% of people that are searching online do that before they actually ever come out and visit a local church. 80% of new church guests would raise their hand and say, yeah, I checked you out on your website before ever stepping foot in your building. So this means that everyone who considers coming out on a Sunday is first going to go through an evaluation process of your church by what they see and experience through your digital front door. So let's think about this. Let's think about a couple of the different scenarios, right? It could potentially be that single mom who's searching for churches near me at that 11:30 p.m. mark, trying to do something for the family. Potentially a newly relocated family or couple that's browsing and looking to plant their flag at a new local church. Or in our 2025 context, potentially a teenager going to ChatGPT, looking for a place to feel community. Is there a youth group or something that I can be a part of in my town? So each one of these is making a decision, and they're making it based largely on your website and or the content that we are serving up on the website. So it's good to understand at the foundational level that these are not current congregants looking for last week's sermon. These are spiritually curious people knocking on the front door of your website, and they could run the gamut in terms of situations, right? Some are hurting, some are lonely, but they're hungry for truth and the Lord is drawing them. And so if your site feels closed, confusing, or outdated, they will most likely move on. But if it's welcoming, with arms open, it really can be the bridge that helps them get through your front doors. So your website is not just about information. It is not a yellow pages. It's a ministry. It's working on your behalf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But there is an issue. Even if your site looks good today, which there are more and more tools and platforms that can help you do that, it might still be invisible to the people who need it most. And that really is a harsher reality that we need to confront and solve for. Picture this, right? You design a beautiful billboard for your church, but you stick it deep in the woods where no one is really able to see it. Now, we would not do that, but that is inadvertently sometimes what we do with things that are involved in our digital presence. That is happening to too many churches today. There was a 2024 audit of about a couple thousand different church websites. And what this particular audit found is that over 65% of church websites are either digitally invisible or deficient in terms of being found. So 2 out of 3 ministries are absent from the very place where still today, 9 out of 10 people are searching. And here's the kicker, right? 99% of users will never go past the page 1 of Google. And once they get there, only 0.6% of them ever really click on any link on page 2. So if your church isn't near the top in today's day and age, you are invisible. And the only people who really will find you are the ones that already knew that you were there. So what this leads us to is that beautiful design and aesthetics isn't enough. If your website isn't built to be found, it's not serving its mission. It isn't living up to the ministry goal that we believe it is to be. And so here's the thing, the landscape of how people are finding these churches online, well, unfortunately, that's not standing still either, right? It's changing fast. And so we do need to quickly pivot and understand what has changed. So once again, we can solve for it. Let me paint you kind of one final picture here. Imagine you are giving a friend directions to your house. But every few months, the directions and the roads that you would use completely change, right? In January, I go down Maple Street, make a left on Broad, that'll take you right to my door. But by April, Maple Street is closed. There's a new highway right around the corner, and you have to completely change how you think about this. That's what's happening in terms of visibility right now. And the strategies that worked, last year, even earlier this year, might not work today, and they certainly won't be working tomorrow. In the past 12 months, digital search has undergone what we would consider a seismic shift, right? From Google's traditional search results that we're all familiar with to AI-driven answers. And if we don't adapt quickly, we really do run the risk of being more and more invisible to the exact people we want to reach with a message of hope. So here's how we can think about this. We can't just ask, can people find us on Google anymore? It's also, do we show up when someone uses voice-activated search with Siri? Are we visible in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude? What does our church look like when it shows up in Google's new AI summaries, if it comes up at all? The places where people look for answers have multiplied, and increasingly, those places are powered by artificial intelligence. Let's just put this in perspective real quick, right? ChatGPT now handles 125 million prompts every single day. ChatGPT, their specific platform, their traffic has grown by 44% month over month since launch. Now, you introduce things like Perplexity, any other AI search tool, we're talking about 71% growth in that same period. It's fascinating to think that ChatGPT started kind of as a novelty research product. It's now a daily habit for tens of million people, right? Even for us here on this call. And so they're asking deep questions like, what's the meaning of life? And yes, is there a good family-oriented church near me? That's a staggering change and shift. And so we're watching an entire generation really grow comfortable asking AI tools for advice and recommendations. And so if your church's information isn't accessible to these platforms, you simply don't exist in this growing slice of the search landscape. Even Google itself, which still owns the predominant share of search, that has changed. You've seen AI overviews, right? Part of their search generative experience. That's already appearing in over 30% of all searches, and that is growing month over month. So here's what's different. AI doesn't browse like a human. It summarizes. Instead of sending people to your site, it creates a direct answer at the top of their page, of their platform, or kind of helps you follow through a rabbit hole of questions. And that means if you've even done everything right from a traditional search engine optimization perspective, keywords, a fast loading site, it's possible in the future that you could still be invisible if your content isn't chosen for that summary box. So we have to recognize that the game has changed. To stay visible, we can't just stop at search engine optimization. We got to go beyond it and make sure our content is the one being summarized, quoted, and also recommended by these AI systems. So here's what it looks like. We need to make sure that our website now speaks two languages. One is for people, of course, and we want to be warm and clear and relational. We want to have that plan of visit, call to action. We want to lead them through your front doors on a Sunday. One is now for machines, and it's a bit of a different language, structured, factual, trustworthy in how it's put together. And if AI can't understand your site, it won't recommend your church again in this growing slice of search platforms, period. So, what does that mean for us on this call today? It's clear that showing up online today takes just a little bit different than a nice looking site and some general search engine optimization. We need to think about things differently. And so the question is, when someone asks AI for help or for hope, how do we ensure our church, your churches, are a part of the answer? And that's really what we're going to explore in the rest of the content today. Now, before we get there, and we're going to have Luke join us in just a minute to walk through what you can do, I just want to pause and say this has all changed so fast and it's rapid. I can understand if it feels fairly daunting, right? Our calling is for people, not algorithms, not large language models. But here's the encouragement. Every trend we see, every stat that we've even shared today points to one thing: a harvest that is plentiful online. People are searching, and we know they're searching at all hours of the day and night for God, for community, for answers to life's hardest questions. And so if we're able to embrace this digital front door mindset and really just tweak our websites so they are remaining visible for both hospitality and visibility, we really can continue to meet people where they are. The methods have changed, but the mission sure hasn't: connecting people to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so your website really can be that beacon on a hill. It can be a warm welcome to that wandering soul. And yes, continue to be the digital front door in this really interesting and fascinating digital age. So let's make sure when they pull into that digital parking lot, the lights are on, the doors are open, and the gospel truly is encountered. Because in this AI-driven world, being in the answer really is the new invitation to come and see. So, Luke, we have covered some significant ground here in a short amount of time. Again, we've mentioned how much things have changed. We've looked at the big picture, how the digital map keeps changing, why SEO isn't enough anymore, and even this brand new term, generative experience optimization, right? That's really the front door. So I think it would be helpful if we took some time and actually gave practical tips on what people can do starting tomorrow to position themselves well for this new and emerging landscape. So we're going to walk through 5 things that everyone on this call can take back to their church and start to implement. So let's go ahead and tackle this first one. The first one is actually, interestingly, not directly on the website, but, and forgive the phrasing here, this is actually something that we have preached about significantly, especially over the last year or so, to a lot of our churches that we have the fortunate opportunity to work with. And that's getting your Google business profile right. Talk to us as to why this is so critical in this new AI powered world.
Yeah, so AI is really looking for trust signals. And so when it's going out online, it's looking to say what platforms can I trust the most to have accurate information? Well, Google Business Profile is really at the top of that list. And so we tell churches, if there's one thing that you can do to help your trustworthiness and ultimately show up in AI, it's really focus on your Google Business Profile. And so go in there and look at your name, your address, your phone number. Do you have service times? Are there updated photos? Those types of things are going to be signals that you can send to AI that will ultimately help your overall presence when people are going to search in those AI bots.
One of the things we've told folks to do as well, and again, we would encourage you to take this next step. Reviews matter more and more and more. I would say within the last couple of years, they've become one of the most critical things on a profile. And now, given how AI search is really indexing the site, I just mean kind of like looking at the content of who you are as a church, they try to get a more well-rounded view, and they really do look at those reviews as a place to understand who you are and whether or not they would recommend you in some AI search. That's also a good place to take some ground. Now we can start to get to some of the website content here. And while potentially simplistic, we want to start with the blocking and tackling, if you will, right? And that's making sure that we've got the basics done right.
Yeah, that's right. It's not uncommon for us to see church websites that don't have, honestly, just the very basic information up front. And so things like service times, your location, those are not prominently displayed. And AI bots are really looking for those sources of information quickly. It's also helpful to have them for humans as well. You should be able to find some of that key information in the first 5 seconds. So what we encourage churches to do is to put the time of their service and their location in other places other than the footer of your website. It's common to have it there, but move it up, put it into natural language within other places on the website, and it will help tremendously.
Good. Number 3 here, build trust and authenticity. And we would largely say that if you wanted to describe, like have a phrase that gets at the heart of at least what AI is trying to do in terms of how it serves up content, it's looking for places where it feels and recognizes that there is trust and authenticity in the content it's looking for. And so there's a couple things that we can do to ensure that church website kind of is designated as trustworthy and authentic.
Yeah, that's right. So just like in number 1, we were talking about the Google Business Profile and how that was really, we worked on that so that we could build trust signals to AI bots. Well, there are plenty of other platforms that are going to help both AI bots and humans as well. And so things like putting your church in the Gospel Coalition directory, Faith Street, or maybe your denominational directory, and not just making sure they're there, but making sure that they're accurate. Is your name right? Is your service time correct? Is your address right? It's not uncommon for us to put those in one time, and it's probably been a decade or more since we've last looked at that. It's a good time to go back and just make sure that we're up to date there.
Good. Number 4 here, speak AI's language. We talked about how the websites of the future need to speak 2 different languages, right? We certainly don't want to lose that human element, that warm relational tone, ensure that the person who already is on the site, they are feeling and able to think to themselves, I can see myself in this church body, this church family. But we need to expand our view here and speak AI's language as well. So talk to us about what exactly that means.
Yeah. So AI doesn't speak our language. It speaks a whole nother language altogether. And so things like having very clear headings, using bullet points, and especially FAQs is really where AI can gather lots of information, understand exactly what it means, and then be able to regurgitate that in some other form when people are asking questions. So what we encourage is, at a minimum, to start, add an FAQ section to, say, your plan a visit page, and then add questions that are not just about your Sunday service, but also questions that would be more discovery oriented. So is, your church a good church for families? Well, that's not an uncommon phrase that somebody would put into Google or an AI chatbot. So make sure that those types of questions are in a FAQ format, and then AI will really surface those much more prevalently.
One of the things we've talked about here, Luke, and we've had to dust off our old trapper keepers. That dates us here, right? When we grew up. But if you all can recall, having to make outlines for a school paper, and how you had to one and then bullet point A and then B and then C. That is kind of the structure here that we're talking about on a website page. So it could be a useful exercise. Take 30 minutes. And it's like, how would you outline your page? That's the sort of headings and bullets and things that AI is really looking for and wants to grab onto as it goes through your site. And number 5 here, root your website in your community. Now, this can be something that I can imagine being on the other side of this. Like, well, of course, we know we say we're in Malvern, PA, for example. We do that. But I think there's another level of depth here that is required in the AI world. Can you speak to that a bit?
Absolutely. So you really want to ground your church in the location where you are. And so what we see most often is that churches will put their address in their footer. And by the way, that's often why if you search for a church name, the description in Google is actually just their footer information, because it has the name of the church and then it has the location of the church that has the city name. If we can move that up into the body copy, and we can put our name in the headings, in those FAQs, and if we can even use other town names around us, now we have the ability to show up in searches where if I'm looking for a church in, let's say, Malvern, where we are, or maybe it's Paoli, which is next door, I can now show up in both searches and not just one, let's say, like Malvern. So good idea to put that name of the city in multiple locations throughout the website.
Great. It's really interesting to think about that how artificial intelligence looks at this. It can intuit a lot more than even regular Google search did. So those landmarks, talking about things that you're near, it really helps AI become hyper local in what it is actually serving and recommending as it creates those summaries as people are asking questions and looking for different things. So look for natural and authentic ways to talk about landmarks and things that are near you and around you as you think about your website content. And of course, we would love to speak into that much more so if necessary. Now, Luke, I can imagine, right? So 5 practical tips here, things that we can start to take ground on tomorrow. But again, a little bit daunting potentially. Am I doing this correctly? One of the things we said from the outset is we also wanted to share a way in which digital outreach is approaching this that really could help churches make sure that they are positioned well for this kind of new realm of AI discoverability. So why don't you walk us through some of what we have available that could be of assistance?
Absolutely. So we have built something that really does take all of these concepts that we just taught about and tries to turn it into kind of a complete packaged solution. And we call this an AI discovery site. And so what I'm going to do is actually do a show and tell and just kind of walk you through this page very briefly to show how we've taken all those concepts and put it into a church website. So first off, what you're seeing here is that we have put the name of our town where we're located, Malvern, Pennsylvania, into multiple places within the copy. So you'll see it here, you'll see it here in the H2 as well. And then we also put it in other locations, again, naturally, but we've put it in multiple places. Now, the top of this page is all for humans. This looks like a normal web page, and that is by design. If somebody were to click from Google or even from an AI chatbot like ChatGPT, we want to give people a place to go that feels welcoming and a place where they can learn more about the church. So the top half of the website really is built all for people. But then we get to the bottom, and this is where we speak the other language, the AI language. And so when I click on this button here, that's when all of the information that's relevant for AI is really brought out. So I'm going to show you just a couple portions of what we've done. So we talked a little bit about having information that is structured in such a way that AI can understand it. Well, what you have here, albeit this is a little bit technical as you're looking at a code segment, but you can understand what it's trying to do. We are telling AI, here are some of the towns that we're close to that we serve. And so now, again, we have more context that AI can understand. We also have hours that we're open on Sundays from 10 to 11:30. We also have affiliations or networks. So we could be affiliated with the Gospel Coalition or Alpha or Desiring God, whatever affiliation we want to put there, we can do that. Now again, AI now understands us a little bit better in terms of who we relate to. Same thing with our Google business profile, our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Now we've given it all this information that can help to understand us better. And there's a lot more code and information that we put behind the scenes. We just wanted to give you a quick sense as to the types of information that we can provide to AI. We also have information here that helps AI discover the church. And so we have this, if you're looking for, and then at Valley Creek, which is the example church, what you'll find. And so if people search in this way, I'm looking for a safe place to explore the Christian faith, we've given AI an answer that they can use that we've dictated that they can use effectively. We also have more information about the location. So we've already mentioned that we're in Malvern, PA. That's clearly established, but we've also got landmarks that are nearby. So if people happen to mention Malvern train station, a high school that's nearby, shopping and dining, again, AI now has context about where we're located and who we serve. We also have given them a map. And then finally at the bottom, this is the meat of the page. We've got FAQs. And so we have some basic information, what time our service is there parking, but we also have a lot of discovery questions that people might search and that we can give answers to immediately. So can I come to Valley Creek if I'm not a Christian? Well, absolutely. We've got information about that AI can return. Or is Valley Creek a good church for families? A very common searched phrase. How can I grow in my faith at Valley Creek? And the list goes on and on. All these queries that people commonly ask, we've given thorough answers to, so that AI can surface that. And let me just mention one other thing. Not only do we have pages that are built for the town where the church is located, but we've also built pages that are designed for the towns that surround where we're located. So in this case, Paoli is a town next door where a lot of people live. We've actually built an entire discovery site just for the town of Paoli. And we've done that for Westchester. We've done that for Berwyn and others as well. That helps us to show up in more locations so that when people are searching, Valley Creek can get to the top of AI. So now I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. I'm actually going to go into ChatGPT. I've got ChatGPT 5 pulled up, and I'm going to actually put in a particular prompt and show you how this works. So in this case, I've typed in, I'm looking for a church in Malvern that has a great kids program. Where should I visit? Notice that this is a longer form, 2 sentences here. This is more common, whereas Google, you just type in a quick phrase. We're typing in a couple of sentences, which is common, and we're going to go ahead and see what pops up. Now, what we're going to show you is how this discovery site really does populate Valley Creek, in this example, at the top of searches. So we've got first we've got a link here. We've got a very brief introduction to the church. But if I scroll down, we get a quick overview as well with information that have populated from the site and from these discovery sites. So this is really helpful, and it helps us to show number one. And if I ask for, give me more information about Valley Creek, now that I've found it, it's going to return a lot of information that have been populated within the discovery site, and it has a ton of information. So now it knows that I've got a family, I have kids, and I'm interested in the kids ministry, how I get connected, who's on the leadership team. I've got tons of information that's really helpful and would likely cause me to say, hey, maybe I should go check this out on a Sunday morning. So that's one example. In a second example, I'm gonna ask, I'm not really sure that I'm a Christian, but I want to go back to church. I'm looking for a church in Malvern where I can grow in my faith. So let's go ahead and run that query as well, and we'll see what pops up here. So once again, we have Valley Creek popping up at the top with a very quick one sentence or two sentence blurb. Great. That's exactly what we were hoping for. And then below, we have more information about the church and about how you can get involved. So this is exactly what we've built in these discovery sites. Is that so? If I type in Malvern, if I say near Paoli, if I near Westchester, all of these different queries will populate your church number one. Okay, so what we want to talk about next is all of the different types of search queries that churches can win with this approach. And so what we're going to do is actually talk about the 4 categories and then walk through some of the details. So if you're searching for something specific about your church and town, so Valley Creek Church in Malvern, service times and parking, well, we can definitely show up for that. That should be an easy one. The second group is people searching for a church like yours. So family-friendly churches near Paoli, family-friendly churches near Westchester. Again, towns that are close to this church. Number 3 is people who are exploring the faith or asking big questions. So where can I explore Christianity in Westchester? Well, Valley Creek can pop up, and then we have an alpha course where we can teach you more about the Christian faith. We got a great 10-week course. And then finally, when people are looking for special events, Christmas Eve services, Easter, that kind of thing, once again, your church can pop up at the top. In total, for each particular location, we can probably show up in 30 to 40 different types of searches. And then if you multiply that by the number of towns that you are focused on, again, Malvern, Paoli, Westchester, Berwyn, now we're talking about over 120 different types of searches that an AI assistant can return where you could show up in that top spot. So even as search has evolved, we can still show up at the top of search just the way we did in Google. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Matt, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what we're offering.
This whole concept is something that we're pretty excited about to be able to bring to help churches and support churches. So we've created a couple of next steps for you to take advantage of. We're actually giving away 6 free, what we call AI discovery sites. They're exactly what Luke has just showed you. We've got 3 that are available for existing clients of digital outreach. We have 3 that are available for non-clients. We think this is a great value. Each one in and of themselves about $2,500 each. We're giving away for free. We want you to reap the rewards of sort of this kind of new strategy and tactic. So here's what you do to enter. Luke is going to be putting in the chat 2 separate links. There's going to be a link if you are a current client for digital outreach. There's going to be a different link if you are a non-client of digital outreach. And we would just simply ask that you fill out the form. Go ahead and raise your hand, say, hey, I'm interested in this, and we will get you on the list. We'd like for you to do that within the next day or 2 here. We will also be sending this as a follow-up email for you in addition, but we're going to be closing kind of the registration for this by the weekend so we can pull the winners and send that out to everybody on Monday. And we'll get into the details of what that onboarding process looks like. We have a very simple 3-step plan to make sure that we're able to get you out the door within just a couple of weeks. If you are interested in this and you didn't get picked for one of the free discovery sites, don't worry. One of the things we have been working on in the background is our next evolution of our web services and platform. And so these AI-powered microsites, the fact that we're able to kind of go to all the surrounding towns, train these AI platforms to look for you, to serve your information up, that is all going to be part and parcel of the platform that we're bringing to each and every one of our clients starting in early 2026. And so, Luke, we're pretty excited about that. We're putting some of the finishing touches on it, making sure it's ready here for go live early in the new year. So we're pretty excited about this. We hope it has piqued your interest as well. One of the other things that we wanted to make sure you had access to is the checklist that we walked through, right? We gave you 5 kind of concrete places that you could look to put in some essentials to your website. So we're also going to be packaging that up, providing that to you as a handout. Each page on this handout actually has a few more actions that you can take underneath each one of those headings. So the first one, and I do want to repeat, if you do nothing else out of this webinar, go optimize that business, that Google business profile. Make sure it's verified. Make sure you own it. Make sure all the details are up to date. Freshen it up with some authentic imagery. And so we've got some of those next steps and tactics for you to take advantage of. And you can simply just walk right through, go down the checklist, and you will be putting yourself in better position as AI comes more and more into view. We just want to take a second to say thank you for hanging with us here on this webinar. We want to leave some time for some questions as well, and make sure that we are dialoguing and interacting with you. So please feel free to submit any additional questions you might have in the chat. Luke, we've got a couple here that we'd love to interact with. So the first one from Andy, in this wild west of ranking on AI bots, is there any space existent yet that helps us to really quantify the ROI on our efforts? Man, do I love someone who talks about ROI. How would we speak into that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the things that we try to do when we have new guests that show up to our churches, ask them, how did you find us? And some people can say, yeah, I found you on Google, or I found you in other ways. It's worth asking, did you happen to search in maybe in ChatGPT or anything else? You could certainly ask that question to see, like, where are they coming from? One thing we know, if we just look at data, and again, it's not about ROI, that is an important aspect, but every new guest that you get that turns into a tithing member will, on average, brings in about $2,500 per year for a church. And so it doesn't take much. It doesn't take many guests to show up to have all of your efforts actually worthwhile. And so we just encourage it to say, look, it's worth spending the time. If you got one guest that showed up from this, it would probably pay for everything that you are doing here.
One other thing I would add here, Luke, is that what's really kind of neat about some of these tactics, again, designed specifically for the world of AI, what we've seen, and your example, Luke, was Valley Creek, is that the actual search engine optimization, so just like Google search results, the typical Google search results that we are all accustomed to in our daily lives, that has taken the next step as well. So what's really neat is by positioning yourself for the future, you're also really impacting today in the here and now. And so in terms of kind of ROI, gets a little into the analytics, but we really track, like, how do people get to the site?
Right.
And so we're seeing an increase in just those general Google searches coming to the site. And last thing I'll mention here, we can see where someone is coming from. We know it's from Google. In 2025, it's sort of fascinating to see all of a sudden, out of nowhere, oh, that came from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so now we're seeing more and more and more of those data points. And I think that would speak, Andy, to a little bit of like, how do you assess the ROI of your efforts? I think looking at those sorts of things can be helpful as well.
I would just add one other quick thing. I was looking at the data for Valley Creek, in particular, our example website. Just in the last 24 hours, we've had 88 AI bots reach into Valley Creek's information to pull. And so, when we're talking about close to 100 different AI bots accessing the information, it really is making a tangible difference. So that means in an average month, thousands of AI bots are coming to look for information on our websites. Certainly some of those will be guests that will come and visit and then hopefully stay with your church.
Great. Thanks, Luke. Next question. I think it's a good one. Are discovery sites separate from the public website? So, for a church managing its own site, how does this actually work with and complement what they have today?
Yes. So what we recommend, if you work with digital outreach, we put your AI discovery sites actually linked in the footer of your website. So what you'll see is we're reaching neighbors in, and then we have a list of the towns that we're trying to reach. Each one of those links is a separate discovery site page. And so it can be on the same site, right? So physically on the same location, but it doesn't have to be. It actually can be a completely separate website. And then as long as it's linked, you'll get all the same benefits for AI that it will rank your content.
Yeah. And similar to that, Luke, Abigail was asking, so then are the microsites on the current main site, or they have different URLs? And so I think there's some variation in how that gets implemented, right?
That's right. They have, each one of those microsites have a different URL. They're actually separate pages, and they can be on your main site. So for example, valleycreek.church/Malvern, or it could be on a completely different domain. So discoverysites.com/Malvern. Either, as long as it's in the footer, you'll still get all the benefits for AI.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. We really appreciate you coming out. We hope this gives you some things to consider, as well as some practical next steps that you can take. We would, of course, love the privilege of helping and partnering with you as we venture into this new territory. So please feel free to, again, submit your information for one of the discoverability sites. Even if you just have general questions about your digital presence, about how you should take next steps for your current digital front door, we would just love to be able to sit down and talk with you. No pressure whatsoever. We just love to help churches be better found within their local communities. So we once again just thank you for your time and for your attention. We know it's short. We know that you wear many different hats and have a lot going on. Have a blessed rest of your week, and we look forward to continuing the conversation soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.